Why do Muslims fast only in Ramadan? Is it just a ritual, a tradition, or is there something deeper, something powerful, something transformative? Let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly controlled your desires? When you stopped chasing instant gratification and proved to yourself that you're stronger than your cravings? Ramadan comes, and suddenly, millions of Muslims shift their entire lifestyle. They wake up before dawn, they resist food, water, even their own impulses, all for a purpose greater than themselves. But here's the real question. Why does this level of discipline vanish once Ramadan is over? Why do we forget the power of fasting when the month ends? Today, we're going deep. We're breaking down the real purpose of fasting, the mindset it builds, and why its lessons shouldn't be locked within 30 days but carried throughout the year. Stay with me till the end, because this is not just about Ramadan, it's about transforming your entire life. Fasting is not just about Ramadan. This is a common misunderstanding, even among some Muslims, that fasting is confined to the holy month of Ramadan, and that once it ends, the obligation to fast is over for the entire year. However, Islam presents fasting as a continuous spiritual practice, one that extends beyond Ramadan and is deeply embedded in a believer's life throughout the year. While fasting in Ramadan is obligatory, voluntary fasting holds immense significance and is encouraged as a means of self-purification, spiritual discipline, and personal development. The Prophet Muhammad regularly practiced fasting outside of Ramadan, setting an example for his followers. He observed fasts on Mondays and Thursdays, a practice meant to cultivate consistency in self-restraint and devotion. These specific days were chosen not arbitrarily, but because, as he explained, deeds are presented before Allah on these days, and he wished to be in a state of fasting when that happened. This indicates that fasting is not limited to an annual ritual, but rather a regular act of spiritual elevation. In addition, fasting on the 3 white days of each Islamic month, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, was also encouraged. These additional fasts serve as a way to sustain the discipline acquired in Ramadan and to maintain a constant connection with Allah. Beyond these regular fasts, Islam prescribes fasting on significant occasions such as the day of Ashura, which marks the salvation of Prophet Moses, and his people from Pharaoh. The Prophet fasted on this day and encouraged others to do so, saying it expiates the sins of the previous year. Similarly, fasting on the day of Arafah, which falls during Hajj, is recommended for those who are not performing the pilgrimage, as it carries immense rewards and erases sins from the past and future year. These fasts demonstrate that Ramadan is not an isolated event, but part of a broader spiritual system designed to foster self-control, gratitude, and discipline throughout the year. Fasting, in its essence, is a means of purification, both physically and spiritually. The control over desires, the patience required, and the discipline it instills are not virtues meant to be exercised only during Ramadan. Instead, they are qualities that should be nurtured consistently. The human tendency to indulge in excess, whether in food, entertainment, or material pursuits, is a constant challenge. Voluntary fasting serves as a way to regulate these tendencies, ensuring that a person remains conscious of their purpose and is not enslaved by worldly distractions. It reminds the believer that self-control is not seasonal, but a lifelong endeavor. In the modern world, where instant gratification dominates, voluntary fasting is a powerful tool to reclaim authority over one's own desires. Science supports its benefits, showing how intermittent fasting enhances mental clarity, strengthens willpower, and detoxifies the body. But beyond the physical advantages, fasting throughout the year nurtures humility, gratitude, and reliance on Allah. It serves as a reminder that sustenance is a gift, not an entitlement, and that true contentment comes from discipline rather than indulgence. Islam's encouragement of fasting outside of Ramadan highlights that spirituality is not meant to be compartmentalized into specific periods. The goal is not just to endure hunger and thirst for a month, but to develop a lifelong habit of self-discipline and reflection. The real test of a Muslim's devotion is not whether they can fast for 30 days during Ramadan when the entire community is engaged in it, but whether they can carry that discipline into the rest of the year when the motivation and collective encouragement are absent. The continuity of fasting beyond Ramadan is what differentiates a person who merely follows tradition from someone who truly understands the depth of the practice. Ramadan is training for life. It is not merely a month of abstaining from food and drink during daylight hours. It is an intensive spiritual, mental, and physical discipline designed to strengthen an individual for the challenges of life beyond Ramadan. The lessons learned during this sacred month are not meant to be confined to 30 days. They are intended to become habits, deeply ingrained into a believer's character and daily routine. The purpose of Ramadan is not just to fast, but to transform, to develop self-restraint, patience, and gratitude that extends far beyond the month itself. One of the greatest lessons Ramadan teaches is self-discipline. The ability to resist food and drink for an entire day while maintaining a positive attitude, continuing work, and fulfilling responsibilities requires immense control. This discipline is not just about avoiding hunger, but about training the mind and body to resist temptations and distractions in all aspects of life. If a person can say no to their most basic needs for a greater purpose, they can also develop the strength to resist harmful habits, unhealthy desires, and negative influences throughout the year. The self-restraint practiced during Ramadan serves as a blueprint for how to approach challenges in everyday life. Patience is another fundamental quality that Ramadan instills. Fasting is not easy, especially in long summer days or while managing daily responsibilities. Yet, Muslims endure this challenge with perseverance, knowing that patience leads to spiritual growth. This endurance translates into life beyond Ramadan, where difficulties and hardships require the same level of patience and faith. Whether facing personal struggles, professional obstacles, or emotional turmoil, the patience cultivated through fasting prepares a person to handle life's trials with resilience and composure. Ramadan also serves as a reminder of gratitude. Throughout the year, it is easy to take food, water, and comfort for granted. However, when a person goes hours without sustenance, they begin to appreciate every sip of water and every bite of food. This heightened awareness fosters a deep sense of gratitude, not just for material blessings, but also for health, family, and the opportunities available in life. Gratitude is a quality that should not fade once Ramadan ends. Rather, it should become a permanent part of one's perspective, leading to a more content and fulfilling life. Another significant aspect of Ramadan is the increased sense of community and compassion. During this month, people come together for iftar, engage in charity, and connect with one another on a spiritual level. The act of fasting creates empathy for those who struggle with hunger daily, reinforcing the importance of helping those in need. This social consciousness should not be limited to Ramadan, but should extend throughout the year, inspiring continuous acts of kindness, generosity, and a commitment to uplifting others. The structured routine of Ramadan, waking up before dawn, praying more frequently, reciting the Quran, and breaking fast at a specific time, builds a sense of discipline and time management. When Ramadan ends, many people find themselves more productive, focused, and spiritually connected than before. The challenge, however, is maintaining this momentum beyond the month. If Ramadan is seen as a training ground rather than an isolated event, then the habits developed during this period can continue to shape a person's lifestyle long after the month has passed. The true success of Ramadan is not measured by how well one fasts during the month, but by how much of its discipline, patience, gratitude, and compassion carry over into the rest of the year. The goal is to emerge from Ramadan as a better, stronger, and more self-aware individual, equipped with the tools needed to navigate the challenges of life with faith and determination. Fasting is a universal concept. It is not exclusive to Islam, nor is it a new practice introduced with the advent of Ramadan. Throughout history, fasting has been an essential part of nearly every major religion and spiritual tradition, serving as a means of purification, discipline, and closeness to the divine. The practice of voluntarily abstaining from food, drink, and other desires has been recognized across cultures as a powerful tool for self-reflection, self-control, and spiritual elevation. The universality of fasting suggests that it is not just a religious obligation, but a deeply ingrained human experience that transcends time, geography, and belief systems. In Christianity, fasting has been an integral practice since the time of Jesus. The Bible speaks of Jesus fasting for 40 days and nights in the wilderness, an act of spiritual preparation and resilience. Many Christian traditions observe fasting during Lent, a period leading up to Easter, where believers give up certain foods or habits as a form of self-discipline and devotion. The purpose of this fasting is similar to that in Islam, to detach from worldly distractions and focus on spiritual growth. Early Christian monks and ascetics also engaged in prolonged fasts, understanding that the absence of material indulgence could lead to greater inner peace and connection with God. Hinduism also emphasizes fasting as a vital spiritual discipline. Many Hindus observe fasts on specific days of the lunar calendar, such as Ekadashi, as a means of self-purification and devotion. Fasting is particularly significant during festivals like Navaratri and Mahashivaratri, where devotees abstain from food and certain activities to enhance their focus on prayer and meditation. The Bhagavad Gita, a sacred Hindu text, speaks of self-restraint as a means of achieving a higher state of consciousness. Fasting in Hinduism is often linked to control over desires, reinforcing the idea that mastering physical needs leads to greater spiritual awareness. Buddhism, with its focus on self-discipline and mindfulness, incorporates fasting as a key practice in the lives of monks and practitioners. Buddhist monks traditionally follow a disciplined eating schedule, often refraining from food after noon to cultivate self-control and reduce attachment to worldly pleasures. The Buddha himself practiced extreme fasting before realizing the middle way, a balanced approach to spiritual enlightenment that still encouraged mindful eating and moderation. Even today, many Buddhists fast as a way to clear the mind, reduce attachment, and strengthen their meditation practice. Judaism, one of the oldest monotheistic faiths, also prescribes fasting on significant occasions. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is the most well-known fasting day in Judaism, where Jews abstain from food and drink for 25 hours as a form of repentance and reflection. Other fasts, such as Tisha B'Av, commemorate historical tragedies and serve as a means of collective mourning and spiritual renewal. In Jewish tradition, fasting is not just about abstaining from food, but about deep introspection, seeking forgiveness, and reconnecting with God. Even outside of religious contexts, fasting has been practiced in various ancient cultures and philosophical traditions. The Greek philosopher Pythagoras promoted fasting as a means of enhancing mental clarity and discipline. The Stoics, known for their emphasis on self-control and endurance, also advocated fasting as a way to train the mind to overcome physical urges. Native American tribes have long used fasting as a method of spiritual purification and preparation for vision quests, seeking divine guidance and enlightenment. Modern science now confirms what ancient traditions have long understood. Fasting has profound effects on the body and mind. It promotes cellular repair, reduces inflammation, enhances cognitive function, and strengthens willpower. These benefits align with the spiritual goals of fasting, reinforcing the idea that it is not just an act of deprivation, but a process of renewal and self-improvement. The widespread presence of fasting across different religions and philosophies shows that it is not merely a ritual, but a fundamental human practice. The discipline, self-restraint, and heightened awareness that come with fasting are universal experiences recognized by people of different faiths and backgrounds as a way to achieve a higher state of being. The shared understanding of fasting across cultures speaks to its timeless relevance and its power to transform the human mind and spirit. Modern society and instant gratification have created a culture where patience, discipline, and self-restraint are becoming rare virtues. The world has become accustomed to immediate satisfaction, whether it is through food, entertainment, technology, or material possessions. Everything is available at the touch of a button, from fast food delivered within minutes to endless streams of content designed to keep people engaged without pause. This constant accessibility has conditioned people to expect instant results in all areas of life, making the concept of self-denial seem foreign or unnecessary. The ability to delay gratification is slowly eroding, leading to a society where people struggle with self-control, impulsiveness, and a lack of appreciation for what they have. Fasting in Ramadan directly challenges this modern mindset. It forces individuals to pause, to step away from the cycle of immediate consumption, and to practice patience in a profound way. When a person fasts, they experience hunger and thirst, but they do not immediately satisfy these needs. They wait, they endure, and in doing so, they regain a sense of control over their desires. This goes against everything modern society promotes, where hunger is met with instant snacks, boredom with immediate entertainment, and discomfort with quick distractions. Fasting reminds people that they are not slaves to their impulses, that they have the ability to resist and choose a higher purpose over momentary satisfaction. The impact of instant gratification extends beyond food and entertainment. It shapes how people approach relationships, careers, and personal goals. Many expect quick success, instant wealth, and effortless achievements. When results do not come immediately, frustration sets in and people give up too soon. Fasting teaches endurance, that meaningful rewards come with patience and effort. A person who completes a day of fasting knows the value of waiting, of persevering through discomfort, and of trusting that the struggle will lead to something greater. This mindset, when applied beyond Ramadan, builds resilience and the ability to work towards long-term success instead of settling for short-lived pleasures. Another effect of a society built on instant gratification is the loss of appreciation for blessings. When everything is easily available, it is taken for granted. Food, water, shelter, and comfort are so accessible that people rarely pause to be grateful for them. Ramadan brings back that awareness. After hours of fasting, a simple sip of water or a bite of food feels deeply satisfying, and gratitude naturally follows. This gratitude is not just for the physical blessings, but for the ability to practice self-discipline, to experience hunger and thirst with purpose, and to share in a collective spiritual journey. It shifts the focus from what is missing to what is already present, creating a mindset of contentment rather than constant seeking. Fasting also serves as a powerful response to the distractions of the modern world. With endless notifications, social media updates, and digital entertainment, attention spans are shorter than ever. People struggle to focus, to reflect, and to be present in the moment. Ramadan encourages a step back from this constant noise. It promotes mindfulness as every action, eating, praying, working, is done with more awareness and intention. The detachment from distractions allows for deeper self-reflection and a stronger connection with faith, something that is often lost in the rush of daily life. The lesson of fasting is that discipline leads to true freedom, the ability to say no to desires, to wait for the right time, and to appreciate what is given rather than constantly chasing more is what creates a fulfilled life. In a world where people are conditioned to seek immediate pleasure, fasting serves as a reminder that real strength comes from self-control. It is not deprivation but empowerment, proving that a person is capable of overcoming urges and living with purpose. The habits developed in Ramadan are not just for 1 month. They are a blueprint for resisting the culture of instant gratification and embracing a life of patience, gratitude, and intentional living. Spiritual connection requires consistency. True faith is not built on occasional acts of worship, but on continuous devotion and effort. It is easy to feel connected to spirituality during Ramadan when the entire atmosphere supports worship, reflection, and self-discipline. The mosques are full, the Quran is recited more frequently, and everyone around is engaged in the same spiritual journey. But when Ramadan ends, Many struggle to maintain that same level of dedication. This is because they view Ramadan as an isolated event rather than a foundation for lifelong spiritual growth. Faith is not something that flourishes in a single month and then fades. It is something that needs to be nurtured consistently, just like any meaningful relationship in life. One of the key aspects of Ramadan is its structured routine. The pre-dawn meal, fasting throughout the day, breaking the fast at sunset, praying additional night prayers. All of these practices create a rhythm that strengthens spiritual awareness. But after Ramadan, many people let go of this structure. They return to irregular prayers, neglecting the Quran, and falling back into old habits. This sudden drop in spiritual effort is what weakens the connection to faith. The discipline of Ramadan is meant to extend beyond the month, carrying over into daily life so that worship becomes a natural and constant part of one's existence, rather than a seasonal effort. The Prophet Muhammad taught that the best deeds are those done consistently, even if they are small. This principle highlights that spirituality is not about grand gestures or temporary enthusiasm, but about steady, ongoing effort. Praying 5 times a day, reading a few verses of the Quran regularly, giving charity in small amounts, and fasting occasionally outside of Ramadan. These simple acts, when done consistently, build a strong foundation of faith. Just as a relationship thrives on constant communication and care, the bond with Allah grows through regular worship and mindfulness, not through sporadic bursts of devotion. One of the challenges many face is the assumption that spiritual progress happens only in extraordinary moments. They wait for Ramadan, for a religious lecture, for a life-changing event to feel connected to faith. But true spirituality is found in everyday moments. The quiet prayer before work, the act of kindness towards a stranger, the patience shown in difficult times. When worship becomes a natural part of life, faith remains strong regardless of the season or circumstance. The mistake is in thinking that faith is an emotional experience rather than a disciplined practice. Emotions fluctuate, but consistent actions create lasting change. Fasting itself teaches this lesson. The strength to fast does not come from a single act of willpower, but from the daily repetition of discipline. Every day of Ramadan, the body adjusts, the mind strengthens, and the soul aligns with a higher purpose. This transformation does not happen overnight, but through consistent effort. The same principle applies to faith. Regular worship, even in small amounts, builds a resilient spiritual foundation that can withstand challenges and distraction. When Ramadan ends, it should not mark the end of devotion, but a transition into a sustainable routine of faith. The habits developed, praying on time, seeking forgiveness, being mindful of words and actions, should continue. The real test of spirituality is not in worshiping when it is easy, when everyone is engaged in the same acts, but in maintaining that connection when the external motivation fades. Spirituality is not an event, but a way of life. And those who recognize this find that their connection with Allah remains strong, not just in Ramadan, but throughout the entire year. Ramadan is not the end of fasting. It is the beginning of a mindset that should continue throughout the year. Many people see Ramadan as the only time for fasting, but in reality, Islam encourages fasting beyond this sacred month. The benefits, both spiritual and physical, do not vanish when Ramadan ends. The discipline developed, the self-control practiced, and the spiritual awareness gained are meant to extend into daily life. Fasting outside of Ramadan is a way to sustain these lessons, to keep the heart connected to worship, and to remind oneself that self-discipline is not a temporary practice but a lifelong commitment. The Prophet Muhammad regularly fasted beyond Ramadan, setting an example for those who seek to maintain their spiritual and physical well-being. He encouraged fasting on Mondays and Thursdays, as well as the white days, 13th, 14th, and 15th of each lunar month. He also recommended fasting on the day of Arafah, the day of Ashura, and during the month of Shaban as preparation for Ramadan. These additional fasts serve as a reminder that the spiritual journey does not conclude with Eid, but continues throughout the year. They help to keep the soul disciplined and the body accustomed to self-restraint, reinforcing the values that Ramadan instills. Fasting outside of Ramadan strengthens the connection with Allah. It is a private act of worship, often unnoticed by others, making it a sincere expression of devotion. Unlike Ramadan, where fasting is a communal experience, voluntary fasting is a personal commitment between the individual and Allah. This secrecy adds to its purity, as it is done solely for His sake, without external recognition or reward. It deepens faith, builds sincerity, and keeps the believer mindful of their relationship with their Creator. When a person chooses to fast on their own, they remind themselves that worship is not seasonal, but a continuous effort. The physical benefits of fasting also continue beyond Ramadan. Modern science confirms that intermittent fasting improves health by reducing inflammation, enhancing brain function, and promoting cellular repair. It helps regulate metabolism, control weight, and increase energy levels. However, the most important aspect is that fasting trains the body to function with less, reducing dependency on constant consumption. In a world where overindulgence is the norm, fasting teaches balance and restraint. It reminds people that they do not need to satisfy every craving immediately, that patience and moderation lead to a healthier and more focused life. Fasting also builds resilience. Life is full of challenges, and the ability to endure difficulty without breaking is a crucial skill. Just as fasting strengthens patience during Ramadan, it continues to develop this quality throughout the year. When someone fasts outside of Ramadan, they voluntarily put themselves in a state of discomfort, reinforcing their ability to control their desires and emotions. This discipline carries over into all aspects of life: work, relationships, personal growth, allowing individuals to make better decisions, resist temptations, and remain steadfast in their goals. Beyond personal benefits, fasting throughout the year serves as a reminder of gratitude. Hunger and thirst reconnect people with the reality of those who suffer from food insecurity daily. It keeps the heart humble and the mind aware of the blessings that are often taken for granted. This awareness leads to increased acts of charity, generosity, and social responsibility. When a person fasts, they develop a deeper sense of empathy and a stronger commitment to helping others. The spiritual essence of fasting is not just about personal growth, but about contributing to a more compassionate and mindful society. Ramadan sets the foundation, but the real challenge is maintaining that spirit afterward. Those who continue fasting beyond Ramadan understand that faith is not about intensity for a short period, but about consistency over a lifetime. It is easy to worship when the environment encourages it, but true devotion is shown when one maintains discipline without external motivation. Fasting throughout the year is a silent but powerful act of faith, a reminder that self-control, gratitude, and spiritual awareness are not meant for just 1 month, but for an entire lifetime. The essence of Ramadan is not meant to be confined to a single month. It is a training ground for discipline, self-control, gratitude, and spiritual awareness. Lessons that are meant to extend into daily life. Fasting is not just an act of deprivation, it is a journey of self-purification, a means to strengthen the soul, and a path to a deeper connection with Allah. While many Muslims fast only in Ramadan, the true power of fasting lies in its continuity. It is a reminder that faith is not seasonal, that discipline is not temporary, and that the pursuit of spiritual growth should never be limited to one time of the year. When Ramadan ends, the commitment to self-improvement should not fade. The prayers, the self-reflection, the patience, and the acts of kindness should become part of a believer's everyday life. Fasting beyond Ramadan is a way to keep that spirit alive, to maintain the self-control that was built, and to continue striving for a higher purpose. The world around us thrives on instant gratification, but Islam teaches patience and endurance. Fasting is the ultimate expression of that lesson, a reminder that true strength comes from restraint and real fulfillment comes from discipline, not indulgence. As you move forward beyond Ramadan, remember that spirituality is not about grand gestures, but about consistency in small acts of devotion. The test of true faith is not in worshiping when it is easy, but in maintaining it when the excitement of the season has passed. Carry the lessons of Ramadan with you and let fasting, prayer, and self-discipline be a lifelong journey rather than a temporary practice. May Allah guide you, strengthen you, and keep your hearts firm in faith throughout the year. May your fasting, your prayers, and your efforts be accepted, and may you continue to grow in wisdom and spirituality beyond Ramadan. Wishing you success in your journey of faith, discipline, and self-improvement. Thank you for your time, and may Allah bless you all.